I will always have a place in my heart for the second installment of the Dead or Alive series, and this video is here to showcase many things I love about this title, as well as a few nitpicks I gained from so many hours spent on this game. If you're interested in Dead or Alive 2 as much as I am, I guarantee you'll enjoy this video, but first, I'll quickly explain the build up to this game's release, and how it builds upon the foundations of the first game. Additionally, this game has many revisions across different systems, so to keep things simple, I'll be looking at Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore when reviewing the game proper, also known as just Dead or Alive 2 in Europe. I've kept you waiting long enough, so let's get cracking. The original Dead or Alive was released in 1996 on Sega's Model 2 arcade board, designed a much flashier and simpler game than version 5-2. Dead or Alive managed to gain a following not only due to the simpler, more explosive gameplay, but also due to the eye-catching female cast. By today's standards, Dead or Alive 1 isn't a bad game, but compared to future games in the series, I just don't think it holds up well. My main thoughts of Dead or Alive 1 are just, why would I play this instead of any other game in the series? It's still an important title to start off with, and even Tecmo knew more could be done with Dead or Alive as an idea, and so they would update and re-release this game quite a few times on different platforms. However, it wasn't until September 1998 when development on a full sequel would properly begin. It wasn't until early 1999 when Tecmo would then release beta footage of Dead or Alive 2, running on the Sega Naomi arcade board. You could already tell how much of a step up this game is over the original. The character models look fantastic, and not only are full 3D stages added, but the fighters are able to interact with them in many different ways as seen in this footage. Keen-eyed fans will be able to tell the differences in the stages between this demo and the final game. For example, that's not how glass works. This demo also shows how tag battles initially worked. Look at that, we didn't even get to do tag fights in the windmill stage. Although the visuals have been upgraded massively, the sound hasn't. Aside from a new background track, the characters sound exactly the same as they did in the first game. This isn't quite the Dead or Alive 2 we know today, but this demo was very important in showcasing the series and the wider game industry's increasing graphical leap at the time. And then, October 16th happened, and the arcade version of Dead or Alive 2 finally released.
この戦いには絶対に勝つ。
This is where the fun begins.
It's safe to say this already blew the first game out of the water. With refined gameplay and incredible visuals which still hold up today, everything about the first game was improved upon, and much like the first game, Tecmo/Team Ninja would build upon the game with new revisions across the arcade, Dreamcast and PlayStation 2. Years later we'd even get a full remake for the Xbox. I'll only be covering classic DOA 2 for this video, but do let me know if you'd like to hear my thoughts on the Ultimate version. With that out of the way, it's time to dive deep into the gameplay of this amazing title. Let's start off with the title screen. Although I love Dead or Alive 2 to pieces, I think the PS2 port is the best version of the game. I don't like this logo. The original logo is so much better. Neon blue text just looked really cool and modern, especially with a slightly faded white text in the centre, giving the logo an electric and supercharged feel. This is iconic. And this is boring. If this is what Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore looks like, I hate to see what Dead or Alive 2 Softcore looks like. And I don't mean that kind of softcore.
You disgust me!
Dead or Alive 2 uses 3 buttons during gameplay, just like its predecessor. You have a punch button, a kick button, and a free button, the latter of which has been reworked quite a bit in this game. By holding free, you can now block an opponent's strikes, something you couldn't do in the original without holding back. The whole system has been improved as well. The first game had counters, but there were many just reversals that looked the same regardless of who you were playing. DOA 2 brings more eye-catching reversals to the forefront, with many awesome, painful-looking throws. Some characters even have their own unique counters, like Kusumi's teleport and Genfu/Leifag's parries. Holds were introduced to the series as an easy way for less experienced fighter game players to hold their own against opponents, and Dolo 2's improved animation/camera angles definitely help make novices feel like they're doing well in the game without needing to spend hours practicing a character first. In the arcade version, hold commands are actually quite different compared to the home ports. They instead required a forward motion first, before needing to press the right direction to catch a strike. The console ports have simplified this by only needing to press the right direction needed to perform a corresponding hold. You were able to switch between these control styles at home, but eventually the Ultimate version, and the series in general, would just stick to the simpler control style, which is a shame if you ask me. While counters are definitely fun to pull off, my main issue with them is not that they're really easy to time, but just the amount of damage that comes with them. I think it would be better if the timing stayed the same, but you wouldn't get much damage, like 15 or 10% of what you normally get. This way, players might be more incentivized to improve their timing, and then they'll be rewarded with much more damaging and satisfying high counter holds. Because regular holds do decent damage, and the time window is so generous, most people wouldn't see the point in improving their timing, which then creates a negative image that Dead or Alive is just counted to win, but we all know that mice is going to get you killed, as seen in this clip here.
Oh my god. Somebody please hit that clip button. God damn.
Dead or Alive 2's visuals are fantastic. The levels may look spacious and basic by today's standards in terms of geometry, but at least in terms of gameplay, it's easy to tell what's happening on screen without there being an overabundance of particle effects or hit sparks. Many of the stages have their own hazards to look out for, like water which can trip you up when attacked, and ledges you can be sent off by various means. Other hazards include ordinary walls, explosive walls, and glass walls, so if you're a wall person, you'll be quite into this game, especially since doing throws around walls is a lot of fun. What I love in a fighting game is the interactivity between the characters and stages, and how you can use the terrain or object inside the level to gain an advantage, and Dead or Alive 2 does this incredibly well. I used to play sparring mode a lot just to mess around with different characters and see what they could do. Another area I like to tackle is the game's sound. If you ask me, Dead or Alive 2 was awesome sound effects and killer voice lines to complement different moves. It's not just the sound effects which rock. Dead or Alive 2 also has a very underrated soundtrack. Admittedly, I do find it disappointing that the sound team didn't enhance or build upon the arcade tracks for the console version in the same way early Tekken soundtracks did. That's not to say no effort was made, as aside from cleaning up the instruments, new sections were added at the end of different tracks to really flesh out the character themes and give them just a bit more punch over the arcade originals. After playing this game for so long, I have to say I wouldn't change the soundtrack for the world. Another aspect of the sound I like to bring up quickly is one of the new additions for the PS2 version was an English dub, where you can just set the voices to Japanese. Admittedly, I like playing the English voices sometimes, just as a break from your Japanese voices so many times over. How can you not love the quality delivery of some of these lines?
playing, right?
DOA 2 has many different gameplay modes to get stuck into. The arcade version only had 4 modes originally, but the home version would gradually add more extras. Story modes is a series of one-round fights with real-time cutscenes in between some of them. Nowadays, these can be confusing for first-time players, and would only make sense for those who follow the series lore, and sadly, this problem persists even when more cutscenes were added to the PS2 version. Not all cutscenes are lacking though, as there are some I enjoy, like this one here.
次の相手かの。じいさん、手加減はしねえ。侮るでないぞ、若いの。
Depending on the level, there are also some cool stage intros which don't appear anywhere else in the game, and help immerse the player more in the Dead or Alive universe. Once you clear all 6 fights, story mode ends with a fight against the Tengu.
全ては我が
His intro and the stage you fight him in are cool, but in the end, the character isn't that memorable. I'm making a point not to unlock him when I can, because he just looks so weird on the full roster. There's only one Dead or Alive game with a genuinely good boss, and it's not this one. Seriously, who actually made Tengu? Moving on to the other modes, Time Attack is a standard arcade mode, which is 8 fights in a row, and if you get a good time, you can then put your name in the ranking table, which is always fun. Survival is my favourite game mode. Here you face infinite opponents and have limited health, so you just have to beat as many people as possible and collect items dropped for a high score. Last but not least is Tag Battle. This was a big feature at the time of Dead or Alive 2's release, and it's still a great alternative to the main game. These are 2-on-2 battles, so you can quickly switch between characters in your team for combos. Depending on who you pick, you can even unlock many different tag moves. There's a lot of great ones. My favourite is with Hayabusa and Bass. For console versions would include Sparring Mode, which lets you practice different moves in the game. Team Battle lets you and another player form a team of up to 5 characters, and you then have to defeat everyone in each other's team. You've also got User Profile System, or UPS for short, which saves data to your memory card and tracks your records across different modes. It even has a pedometer. Because why not? UPS is handy to have if you've got a competitive circle around you, but it's very simple nowadays compared to future PS2 games like Virtua Fighter 4 and Tekken 5, which feature customizable characters and ranking systems. The last few modes are Watch Mode and a variation of Versus Mode, where you can save and replay the fights afterwards. It is a bit weird this feature isn't already built into the other modes, but I'm not particularly bothered as I never use replays in this game. Finally, you've got Collection, which keeps track of all the items you picked up in Survival Mode, and then there's CG Gallery, which is a slideshow of all the female cast in different outfits, mainly swimwear, so if that's your thing then knock yourself out. And that's basically Dead or Alive 2. If you ask me, this is not only a fantastic sequel which blows the first game out of the water, but it's also a classic fighting game in its own right. The gameplay visuals were something special when DOA 2 first came out, and suffice to say, it still looks and plays well today. While the gameplay may not be as complex as the games from that time period, the rock paper scissors style does bring its own strategy, which tries to think ahead of your opponent in terms of what strikes and holds you're going to go for. One of the reasons I prefer the original Dead or Alive 2 over the sequels and Ultimate version is that you're able to use the arcade hold system, which I said earlier was a shame the sequels dropped. While holds is more difficult to do with the arcade system, it does make pulling off successful holds all the more special, and I also feel this makes counters less spammable. This is also a standard system used in online tournaments, so it's definitely worth getting to grips with if you're interested in that. Although I have my nitpicks with the counters, I think they make fighting the CPUs more fun than other fighting games, as they can potentially reverse any move you do at any time, which means the same thing never happens twice and it doesn't get boring. I don't think I'll ever get bored of Dead or Alive 2, it's easily my favourite installment in the DOA series, and it's also my go-to pick up and play game in general. What you've got to respect about Dead or Alive 2 is that I've perfectly established what Dead or Alive is about going forward, as well as all the key ingredients needed to make a great installment. Easy to pick up and hard to master fighting, more or less an essential character roster, and the great side modes. It goes without saying, you could easily skip the first game and just go straight to Dead or Alive 2. Even if you only got this game and none of the other installments in the series, I don't think we'll mind too much as this game is just that good. In closing, I don't think the series could ask for a more perfect sequel.